Hello and welcome to your little introduction to the German Digital Library. This is their German language. It's also available in English. A national portal of scientific and cultural objects. The aim is to have ultimately 30,000 cultural and scientific institutions networked together and freely in their objects freely accessible on this single common platform. The idea came around initially in 2009 due to a European Union initiative to create the Europeana, a digital library that would accumulate in one place all of the cultural objects of all of Europe with the goal of creating a free and democratic society through open access to information. So following this in 2009, Germany started their digital library here with the goal to offer everyone unrestricted access to Germany's cultural and scientific heritage, that is, access to millions of books, archived items, images, sculptures, pieces of music, and other sound documents, as well as films and scores from all over Germany. This started in 2009, but the beta version was not launched until 2012 with 5.6 million digital objects, with the full launch occurring on March 31st of 2014. At that time, it had about 7 million objects in the library. Digital Library, which is also known as the DDB, is a publicly funded project. The initial infrastructure expenditure was covered by the German federal government, with the German federal government, municipalities, and states all three splitting the costs of annual operating revenues for all years after 2011. I couldn't really find much in the way of what the funding was post 2015 or 16, which is when the initial funding plan ran out. So let's take a look at this library itself. It's perhaps unsurprising when you consider its initial inspiration that this is an open source system. The software was developed specifically for this project using the Groovy Grails toolset. You can, if you have a lot of interest in the code behind it, you can go on GitHub and take a look at absolutely everything up to date now. The link is on my annotated bibliography. See above the search box, there's currently almost 9.4 million digital objects in this library. The highest number I could get on the current participating institutions was approximately 2,000, which is a good deal lower than the initial goal they had of 30,000. And I think it could have to do, and the lower number of objects could have to do with the fact that even though this library started out with the grand aim of digitizing absolutely everything of German cultural and scientific significance, due to the realities of copyright law, it's been more practical for them to focus initially on making available content that has no commercial value and that can be made available without cost, i.e. things that are no longer under copyright. As a result of that, most of the objects in the library currently are old So the library is somewhat out of date and incomplete as it currently stands. We can have a look at how the search works. The advanced search is really quite nice. As you can see, this one I started earlier, there's faceted searching, so I've got right here a Polish language and keyword war search, as well as a Greek language, or, oh, it'll probably be better if this is also an and war. So maybe I'm doing a little research, gonna compare like World War II to Thucydides. So I can use this, connect my two different search groups with the OR function. I can add another search group. Looks like only 3 are added to be allowed to be added. And the nice thing too, with the results and with the searching boxes themselves, is the faceted filtering. So things can be narrowed down fast. Looks like there's not much in terms of Greek results, which would make sense for a German library. In addition to the content facets like time, location, person, keyword, that kind of thing, there's a lot of other more, we'd say, I would guess, relate to what would be more administrative metadata kind of facets, where we have like the legal status, which currently doesn't have any values. I'm sure that that will become more complicated as more objects with copyrights are added. Some of these are not doing too good here. In the Polish war search, unfortunately, I guess this wasn't good. But yeah, besides the facets, we have this fun feature of the compare the objects. If you just look next to each little thing over here, you have the little symbol. And it gives me this nice little page that compares their entries. Now, it does say that this is both an English and a German library, and I'm using it in English, and you can see that we have the some is in English, but the metadata values itself are not translated from the German into English, which limits some of the functionality of it. You can see here on these entries for these objects that the German Digital Library is a library of metadata and links to accessing the objects, and not a library of objects themselves. So if you want to go out to where it is, it'll take you to a whole nother tab and bring you to an external institution. I would love the metadata values to be translated into English, so it would be a bit more useful for me in particular. I do think in general this is a pretty good library. The mission of it is about as lofty and noble as you can get in the library, archives, and museum fields. The only shortcoming I would see is with the use of only non-copyrighted objects. There are some large gaps, namely, in the last 70 or 80 years. But besides that, I think, once those kind of laws get up to date with digital objects, and that this library is really on a great path to being a wonderful tool for their nation.